Archaeologists have discovered a huge ancient city hidden underground in Mexico, which may give a better understanding of the Maya civilization.
Scientists discover something deep beneath Mexico that does not belong anywhere in human history. Hidden under the ground, it looks impossible and raises questions about its origin. Nothing like it has been recorded before. What lies beneath? Could history be rewritten in ways we never imagined? Join us as we explore this mystery. The mystery of the Ojuelos artifacts. In 1999, a former Mexican military doctor named Pablo Enrique Garcia Sanchez traveled to a remote area in northeastern Jalisco, Mexico, known as El Toro, near the municipality of Ojuelos de Jalisco. He set up camp in this isolated high desert region, where the Mexican states of Jalisco, Zacatecas, and Aguascalientes meet. The area is sparsely populated and lies about 1,000 miles from the ancient Maya heartland, making it an unexpected place for significant archaeological discoveries. While camping, Garcia came across a carved stone weighing several pounds. The object was about the size of two cupped hands. Its surface was covered with unusual carvings that appeared to have been created by skilled craftsmen from an unknown civilization. Although Garcia had no formal archaeological training, the style of the carvings reminded him of Maya artwork. However, such a connection seemed unlikely because of the great distance from the Maya region. He also considered the possibility that the carvings could be linked to the Aztecs, whose trade routes were known to have reached parts of this northern desert. After returning to the town of Ojuelos, Garcia showed the carved stone to local residents. To his surprise, many people were already familiar with similar objects. Farmers and ranchers explained that carved stones like this had been discovered in the area for more than 80 years. Several residents even shared their own collections, which included carved stones and broken fragments displaying the same unusual style. Along with these physical discoveries, Garcia also heard many stories that had circulated in the region for years. Local rumors spoke of hundreds of carved objects hidden inside caves near El Toro. Some stories even claimed that a skull belonging to an unknown creature had been found there. Other accounts mentioned a lost city and a large temple somewhere in the surrounding landscape. Whether any of these stories were true remained uncertain. However, the carved stones themselves were real and could not be ignored. Garcia became deeply interested in studying these mysterious objects. Together with other people who shared his curiosity, he established a research group called Nahue Olin. The name comes from the Aztec language Nahuatl. Oan means fifth world, referring to the present age of humanity according to the Aztec beliefs. Over the following years, members of the Nahue Olin organization searched the hills, valleys, and countryside surrounding Ojo de Agua and extending into Zacatecas. During this work, they cataloged more than 400 unique artifacts. More than 95% of these objects were carved from stone, while the remaining pieces were made from high-fired clay. The images carved into these artifacts have made them one of the most controversial collections ever found in Mexico. Many pieces appear to show flying disc-shaped objects. Others depict human-like figures with unusually large heads and large eyes that resemble the gray aliens often described in modern reports of unidentified flying objects. Some carvings show people wearing what look like spacesuits. Other scenes appear to represent outer space through symbolic or allegorical artwork. The collection also includes stylized animals and symbols that resemble Maya glyphs. Some researchers have interpreted certain carvings as star maps. A few examples even appear to feature the central face found on the famous Aztec calendar stone. However, instead of showing the traditional face of the sun, these versions display what many people describe as an otherworldly or alien-looking face. These unusual images have sparked debate for many years. Supporters believe the carvings may preserve ancient traditions or forgotten knowledge, while critics strongly question their authenticity. Even before Garcia discovered his first stone in 1999, similar artifacts had already been sold to tourists visiting the Ojo de Agua area. This commercial activity became one of the main reasons many skeptics dismissed the collection. They argued that the objects were modern creations made to attract buyers looking for mysterious ancient relics. The skepticism increased because selling these carved pieces became an important source of income for some local residents. Guided tours were also offered, allowing visitors to explore nearby caves and search the surrounding area for additional artifacts. For critics, these business activities suggested that financial gain could have encouraged the production of fake objects. Despite these concerns, the Nahue All-In Group continued building its collection. Today, the organization maintains more than 400 documented pieces. Researchers associated with the group believe that thousands of similar artifacts exist outside their collection. According to them, many are kept in private collections around the world, while others remain in the homes of local families whose relatives discovered them over many generations. In 2015, Garcia published a book titled As Land of the Huaylos Aztecs, Una Historia Más Completa de la Humanidad, which translates into English as Land and the Aztecs, a more complete history of humanity. In this book, Garcia proposed that the region where the artifacts were discovered formed part of Aztlan, the legendary homeland from which the Aztec civilization is believed to have originated. Garcia further suggested that the carvings provide evidence of extraterrestrial influence during the earliest development of Aztec culture in the Aztlan homeland. This interpretation immediately attracted strong criticism from skeptics. Many argued that Garcia and the Nahue All-In organization were operating more as a business than as an independent scientific research group. The criticism became even stronger when people looked at the activities connected with the organization. These included conferences, book sales, guided tours, a small museum, and an internet program that appeared from time to time called Aztlan Paraíso Perdido, known in English as Aztlan Lost Paradise. Critics believe that these activities raised questions about whether the main focus was research or commercial promotion. Another major concern raised by critics involves the group's research methods. The Nahue All-In organization does not include formally trained archaeologists or researchers with recognized academic field experience. In addition, the group has been criticized for not carefully documenting where each artifact was discovered. Detailed find locations, complete witness accounts, and systematic excavation records have generally not been provided. Questions have also been raised about the laboratory testing connected to some of the artifacts. In one reported case, certain pieces were claimed to be 16,000 years old, based on carbon-14 dating. Scientists have pointed out that this method cannot directly determine the age of stone, because carbon-14 dating is designed only for organic materials, the controversy that refuses to end. In the year 2011, a man calling himself Raul Julia Levy brought the Ojuelos artifacts into international attention. He claimed to be the son of the Puerto Rican actor Raul Julia. He also said that through family connections with former Mexican President Vicente Fox, he would take part in a Mexican government project to release sensitive information. According to his claims, this information would confirm that Mexico had maintained a relationship with extraterrestrials since the time of the ancient Maya. Raul Julia Levy stated that the carved stones from Ojuelos were connected to extraterrestrials. However, he also claimed that the objects were actually created by the ancient Maya. He presented them as part of a much larger collection of evidence that, in his view, proved contact between extraterrestrials and the Maya civilization. He planned to present this material in a book and a documentary called Revelations of the Mayans, 2012 and beyond. This project did not receive support from Pablo Enrique Garcia Sanchez or the Nahue All-In organization. Even though the documentary moved into production, it was never completed. Filming began in Mexico during March of the year 2012. The project was expected to be released in December of that same year. However, production came to an end after a contract dispute between Raul Julia Levy and the executive producer. Raul Julia Levy also announced plans to publish a book. The proposed title was either Chronicles of the Mayan Tunnel or Secrets of the Mayan Time Machine. Although the book was promised, it was never completed or released. Before the end of the Maya calendar cycle in December of the year 2012, the man calling himself Raul Julia Levy disappeared. At the same time, accusations began to spread that he had falsely claimed his identity. The real Puerto Rican actor Raul Julia publicly stated that he had no son by that name. He made it clear that the person using his name was not related to him. Later investigations showed that the man calling himself Raul Julia Levy was actually Salvador Fuentes. He had no connection to the famous actor in any way. This discovery added another surprising twist to the already controversial Ojuelos story. What had already been questioned by many people now appeared to include another layer of deception. As a result, the entire case became even more controversial. In the year 2014, another unusual claim brought fresh attention to the area. A supposed extraterrestrial skull was reportedly discovered inside a remote cave outside Ojuelos. The finding attracted interest from people who believed it could be another piece of evidence supporting claims of extraterrestrial contact. An informal examination of the skull quickly raised serious doubts. The object was found to be a rough construction made from different animal bone. Instead of being an unknown creature, it appeared to be a simple handmade creation. Mexican paranormal researcher Daniel Galarza Santiago, who operates the website El Escéptico de Jalisco, also commented on the object. He noted that the supposed extraterrestrial skull looked very similar to the Star Wars character Jar Jar Binks. His observation added to the growing skepticism surrounding the discovery. Apart from the carved stones, no other convincing archaeological evidence has been presented. No burials connected to the artifacts have ever been reported. No pottery has been discovered alongside them. No additional bones have been recovered. There have also been no verified discoveries of other archaeological objects connected to the carved stones. The only objects that continue to appear are the carved stones themselves. According to reports, they are sometimes found during walks through the desert or uncovered by local residents while working in the area. These discoveries continue to fuel discussion, even though no additional supporting evidence has been found. For many years, people who believe the carved stones represent evidence of extraterrestrial contact have tried to gain the attention of respected Mexican institutions that study ancient artifacts. They hoped that professional archaeologists would examine the objects and provide official recognition. The highest archaeological authority in Mexico is the National Institute of Anthropology and History, commonly known by its Spanish abbreviation, INAH. The organization is based in Mexico City and has offices and representatives throughout every Mexican state. Because it is responsible for protecting and studying Mexico's archaeological heritage, its opinion carries great importance. After receiving questions about whether the supposed extraterrestrial artifacts from Ojuelos could legally be sold to tourists, AENA prepared an official written response. This was one of the first times the institution had formally addressed the controversial objects. Archaeologist Dr. Ana Maria Falls Marin explained that, although the pieces were being sold as genuine pre-Hispanic artifacts and some buyers were being misled, there was no crime for the Institute to investigate. According to INAH, the objects were not historical artifacts. Instead, they were considered simple crafts. She also explained that selling a nation's genuine cultural heritage is a federal crime. However, she emphasized that these items were not original archaeological objects. Because of that conclusion, they were not protected under Mexico's cultural heritage laws. This official statement represents the Mexican government's final position regarding the Ojuelos artifacts. INA considers them to be modern creations rather than genuine ancient archaeological objects. As a result, the Institute classifies them as contemporary crafts made for commercial sale, especially for tourists. Jaime Maussan and the growing debate over the Ojuelos artifacts. The Ojuelos artifacts gained widespread public attention through Jaime Maussan, a Mexican journalist and self-described ufologist who was born on May 31, 1953, in Mexico City. Maussan has worked in broadcasting since the 1970s and became well known for promoting claims related to unidentified flying objects. He presented the carved stones from Ojuelos as evidence of ancient contact between humans and extraterrestrials. His support brought the artifacts to the attention of people around the world. At the same time, it also increased public skepticism because he had previously promoted other claims that were later shown to be fabrication. According to INA archaeologist Ana Maria Pels Marin, the carved stones submitted by residents of Ojuelos could be recognized as modern creations almost immediately. After examining the materials brought to the Institute for authentication, she explained that the carvings combined artistic styles from several different Mesoamerican civilizations. Images connected to the Mexica, Olmec, and Maya cultures appeared together on the same stones, along with figures described as aliens. Authentic pre-Hispanic artifacts normally display a consistent artistic style that belongs to a specific culture and historical period. They do not combine elements from civilizations that were separated by centuries and live thousands of miles apart. Beginning in 2012, residents of Ojuelos claim they were discovering carved stones buried several meters underground. Many of these objects showed spaceships, astronauts, and beings with features commonly linked to modern ideas about aliens, including large elongated eyes and the absence of mouths. Some carvings also showed reptile-like creatures covered with scales. INA supporters connected these images to stories associated with the Hope and Cherokee tribes. Other stones included the Mayan calendar, pregnant women, and scenes that appeared to show offerings being made to spacecraft-like objects. People from Ojuelos repeatedly visited the INAH office in Aguascalientes, hoping to have the stones officially recognized as authentic archaeological discoveries. Every submission received the same response. Archaeologists concluded that the objects were modern fabrications rather than ancient artifacts. This consistent decision created disagreement between local residents, who believed the stones were genuine, and professional archaeologists, who considered them recent carvings. Economic factors also played an important role in the controversy. If the stones had been confirmed as authentic ancient artifacts, federal heritage protection laws would have made their sale illegal. However, if they were classified as modern craft items, they could legally be sold to tourists. This allowed the artifacts to become part of a profitable local business. Some residents claimed that the carved stones had been passed down through their families for generations, suggesting that they existed long before modern ideas about extraterrestrials became popular. Others said they had discovered the objects inside underground burial chambers and caves on Cerro del Toro and throughout the Los Altos region. However, no professional archaeological excavation had ever documented these discoveries in a controlled scientific setting. Every reported find came from amateur treasure hunters or local residents without formal archaeological recording methods. The artifacts were often sold with extraordinary descriptions. Some sellers claimed that certain pieces dated from 1600 BCE to 2000 BCE, making them much older than any known Mesoamerican civilization. Advertisements also stated that the stones came directly from sites on Cerro del Toro and represented the original mother culture from which all other Mesoamerican civilizations developed. Claims also appeared stating that more than 20,000 artifacts had been discovered, although no verified inventory supported that number. Books promoting the artifacts were published outside the established academic channels. These publications did not go through peer review and were not endorsed by recognized archaeological institutions. As a result, they did not meet the standards normally expected for scientific research. The situation placed archaeologists in a difficult position. Testing every carved stone in a laboratory could give greater public attention to the artifacts and encourage even more production. On the other hand, rejecting the objects without laboratory testing allowed supporters to accuse the institutions of bias. INAs chose to rely on visual examination, stating that the stones were clearly modern creations and therefore did not require expensive scientific analysis. While this approach followed professional archaeological practice, it also led supporters to claim that the evidence was being deliberately ignored. Several important questions continued to shape the debate. Why did these carved stones appear only in one specific location? Where were the settlements, pottery, tools, buildings, and other archaeological remains that would normally exist alongside a civilization capable of producing such artwork? Why did the carvings resemble modern ideas about aliens instead of showing completely unfamiliar images? If the artifacts were modern, these questions had simple explanations. The stones appeared only in Ojuelos because that was where they were being produced. No supporting archaeological materials existed because there had never been an ancient civilization connected to them. The alien imagery closely matched modern UFO culture because that was the source of inspiration for the carving. Some supporters argued that the weathered surfaces of the stones proved they were ancient. However, archaeologists noted that surface patina can form naturally within a relatively short time or be created artificially. Without controlled scientific analysis, weathering alone cannot accurately determine the age of a carved stone. Even a stone carved only a few years earlier and left outdoors could develop a surface that appeared old to someone without archaeological training. Over time, the local economy surrounding the artifacts became self-sustaining. Tourists interested in alien mysteries visited Ojuelos, creating a steady demand for the carved stones. Local residents supplied that demand by producing and selling more artifacts. tour guides offered trips to caves where the objects were said to have been discovered. Small museums displayed collections of the stones, while books and documentaries continued to keep the subject in the public eye. Each part of this growing industry benefited from maintaining public interest. At the same time, professional archaeologists working in northeastern Jalisco documented genuine pre-Hispanic settlements dating to approximately 100 CE. These authentic archaeological sites contain pottery, tools, buildings, and other remains that followed well-established historical patterns. None of these genuine discoveries resembled the carved stones from Ojuelos. This created a clear contrast between verified archaeological evidence showing normal cultural development and unverified claims of ancient alien artifacts, even though both were connected to the same general region. Why the dating claims behind the Ojuelos artifacts were questioned. The main claim about the age of the Ojuelos artifacts depended on carbon-14 dating, a scientific method created by University of Chicago chemist Willard Libby during the 1940s. His work later earned him the Nobel Prize in 1960. Carbon-14 dating measures the decay of radioactive carbon in organic materials such as charcoal, wood, bone, cloth, leather, and other materials that once came from living organisms. This method works because living plants and animals constantly exchange carbon with the environment, keeping the amount of carbon-14 in balance with the atmosphere. When a living organism dies, it no longer absorbs carbon. From that moment, the remaining carbon-14 begins to decay at a known rate, with a half-life of 5,730 years. By measuring how much carbon-14 remains, scientists can estimate when the organism passed away, up to about 50,000 years ago. However, carbon-14 dating has one important limitation. It can only be used on organic materials. Stone is not organic and contains no carbon from a living organism. Because of this, carbon-14 dating cannot determine when a stone was carved. It can only date organic materials connected to the stone, such as a wooden tool handle, charcoal found in the same archaeological layer, or organic residue attached to its surface. This limitation made the claim that the Ojuelos stones were 16,000 years old through carbon-14 dating, immediately questionable to anyone familiar with the method. If such testing had really been carried out, proper scientific procedures would have required detailed record. Researchers would need to identify the exact organic material that was tested, describe where it was found, and explain how they ruled out contamination from newer organic material. Professional archaeological reports also include laboratory reference numbers, calibration methods, and statistical margins of error. No such documentation was available for the Ojuelos artifacts. Instead, the claim that the stones were 16,000 years old appeared only in promotional materials. There were no peer-reviewed publications, laboratory reports, or independently verified scientific results. The larger issue was not only the dating method, but also scientific credibility. Modern archaeological research depends on peer review, repeated testing, and oversight by professional institutions. Archaeologists publish their findings in academic journals, where other experts carefully examine the evidence before publication. They also submit artifacts to independent laboratories so that results can be confirmed. Other researchers are given access to the original materials and field records because scientific knowledge grows through careful examination and verification. The Ojuelos claims did not follow this process. The Nahua Olin organization did not employ qualified archaeologists and did not publish peer-reviewed research. Instead, its findings appeared in self-published books, promotional websites, and documentary films aimed at the general public rather than the academic community. When archaeologists from INSH rejected the artifacts, supporters viewed the decision as institutional bias instead of the expected response from scientists who found the evidence unsupported. This created a lasting disagreement. Professional archaeologists required documented excavation records, published stratigraphic information, and independent laboratory confirmation before accepting the artifacts as scientific evidence. Supporters believed the stones themselves were enough proof and saw requests for documentation as an attempt to block evidence that challenged accepted history. The controversy reflected a common conflict between amateur discoveries and professional scientific standards. Throughout history, some important archaeological discoveries have been made by farmers, construction workers, and amateur collectors. When these finds are carefully documented and professionally studied, they can improve historical knowledge. Others have turned out to be modern creations, mistaken identifications, or genuine ancient objects misunderstood because their original context was missing. The key difference is whether the discoveries are submitted for careful scientific examination and whether the results are accepted, regardless of the outcome. In the case of the Ojuelos artifacts, that willingness appeared to be missing. The artifacts moved through private collections, tourist markets, and small museums without systematic cataloging or detailed scientific study by qualified institutions. An evaluation of submitted samples was rejected based on visual stylistic analysis, which supporters used to argue that proper testing had never taken place. As a result, the debate became circular. Supporters wanted official recognition, while scientific institutions asked for reliable documentation. Supporters viewed those requirements as obstruction, and the disagreement continued without reaching a resolution. The legacy of the Ojuelos carved stone. As of 2018, the carved stones were still being sold through online marketplaces. Many sellers claimed the artifacts had been collected directly from the Cerro del Toro site during visits made as recently as April 2018. Product descriptions often promoted the pieces as dating from 1600 BCE to 2000 BCE, describing them as relics from the pre-Columbian Abuelos culture. The commercial market for these artifacts remained active. Various websites displayed large collections, sold replica pieces, and continued promoting ancient alien theories. Organizations such as Sacred Origins Aslan also kept an online presence, promising research findings and laboratory results. However, no peer-reviewed scientific studies supporting these claims were published. INAA's position did not change. The Institute continued to classify the carved stones as modern creations rather than genuine historical artifacts. Because they were not considered protected cultural heritage, they could legally be sold as modern crafts. As Dr. Ana Maria Pels Marin explained, the stones were not recognized as historical objects under Mexican law. As a result, no criminal cases were brought against those selling them, allowing the trade to continue openly. No recognized archaeological institution carried out a full scientific investigation of the artifacts. Most experts considered the stones to be modern creations based on their artistic style alone. Likewise, the rumored temple and the supposed lost city were never confirmed through professional archaeological surveys. In 2014, a skull said to be extraterrestrial was reportedly found inside a cave. An informal examination later concluded that it had been assembled from animal bone. Daniel Galarza Santiago, who operates the El Séptico de Jalisco website, pointed out that the skull closely resembled Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars. He noted that many supposed alien artifacts often reflected modern popular culture, instead of truly unfamiliar or alien designs. Several explanations have been suggested for the carved stones, and more than one could be true at the same time. One possibility is that many of the stones were deliberately created in modern times for profit because there was clear financial motivation. Another possibility is that some were genuine examples of local folk art made over many years, without any intention to deceive. Later, sellers may have presented them as ancient artifacts after recognizing growing public interest. A third possibility is that, among the many stones in circulation, a small number could be authentic pre-Hispanic artifacts from the region. These genuine pieces would not be connected to alien imagery, but may have been incorrectly identified or intentionally mixed with modern creations by sellers. Without controlled excavations, proper documentation of excavation layers, and careful laboratory testing by independent institutions, it is impossible to determine which explanation is correct. The artifacts remain outside the field of formal archaeology. They continue to have commercial value, cultural importance for some local communities, and strong appeal for people interested in alternative history. However, they still lack the documented evidence needed to improve academic knowledge of Mexico's pre-Hispanic past. The town of Ojuelos has genuine historical importance that is completely separate from the artifact debate. In 2010, UNESCO recognized the town as part of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro World Heritage Site. This historic road transported silver for about 300 years, from the 16th century to the 19th century. UNESCO specifically recognized the historic center of Ojuelos and its bridge. The town's recorded history dates back to 1569, when Spanish conquistador Pedro Carrillo de Avila established it as a military garrison to defend against Chichimeca warriors. Despite this well-documented history, the town's verified heritage has received less public attention than the unproven claims surrounding the carved stone. This contrast highlights an important difference. Genuine archaeological discoveries depend on careful documentation, scientific study, and agreement among experts before receiving international recognition. In comparison, the carved stones gained attention through promotion, internet marketing, and interest in alternative beliefs. While one approach adds to historical knowledge, the other mainly supports commercial activity. Today, the carved stones of Ochuelos remain in the same uncertain position they have occupied since 1999. They continue to exist as tourist souvenirs, evidence for alternative history supporters, and artifacts rejected by professional archaeology. Until proper excavations, complete documentation, systematic cataloging, and independent scientific testing are carried out, their true nature is likely to remain uncertain.